everybody, it's John, your Indian Cinemaniac, with a very special 10-ish minute review. I'm going out of order here a little bit because tonight, actually this afternoon, I went to the movie theater and saw Kalki 2898. That's right, I saw it in a movie theater. And what was so exciting about it, much like the last film I saw, which was Donkey, I was the only one in the movie theater. So I had the entire movie theater to myself. But I wanted to see this in a theater because, as most of you know, I'm a huge science fiction fan. So I wanted to see India's most epic sci-fi adventure, and this is the most expensive movie made in India cinema history. And I completely understand why. Now, it was directed by Nag Ashwin, who also wrote it, but I don't think I've seen anything that they've directed. It starred Brabhas, who I've seen in Bahubali, who is very good in this. Big B, Amitabh Bachchan, I've seen a ton of his stuff. Sholay, Pink. I mean, he's great. Now, what did surprise me, and for those who haven't seen the movie, this will be, I'm not going to spoil the film, but I am going to spoil something that somebody who's in it, a cameo. So if you don't want to know, just don't listen for about 15 seconds. And I didn't know this originally, but the main villain in the movie, the Supreme, is played by Kamal Hassan from Vikram. I didn't know that. I knew at the end because in the beginning he's kind of withered, and then he at the end of the movie in an after credit scene he gets energy and his body fills out. And I recognized his face, but he's bald, so I didn't recognize him as Kamal Hassan. And I go, I know that guy, I just don't know who it is. And then when I looked it up, it was Kamal Hassan. Deepika Padukone, who's I've seen her in a bunch of stuff. Padmavat, Fighter, Jawan, beautiful woman, by the way. Also, Disha Patani, who was in this film as Roxy, and I saw her in MS Donnie. One of my critiques of the movie is for Roxy. Okay, so this is not going to be a typical 10-ish minute review. I just saw this film, so I just wanted to give you some initial thoughts on it. First of all, the scope of this film is pretty incredible. The amount of people in the movie, the sets. Now, I get that a lot of it is CGI, but there's a lot of practical sets and vehicles that are very cool in this movie. So from that standpoint, it was visually pretty stunning. In fact, there's a scene. The whole movie is post-apocalyptic. In fact, there's a movie that I can't remember the total name of it, but it's Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. There's a title and then Adventures in the Forbidden Zone starring Peter Strauss and Michael Ironside, and I think Molly Ringwald. There was a lot in this movie that reminded me of that. Very similar look, but it's very bleak, and the color palette is very bleak. Now, there's one scene where they go to this place called the Complex, and on top of the Complex is this oasis. And when they get off the elevator and go from the post-apocalyptic area, and then they go to this area, it hits you like a sledgehammer. Everything's so beautifully green, oceans, just spectacular. So you can see where all the money went. It was an epic film. The performances in this film, Amitabh Bachchan, who, this is a small critique of the movie, but at the beginning of the movie, they kind of set up the story with a flashback to ancient times. And there's a warrior, two warriors, and the one warrior is Amitabh Bachchan, but I didn't know that. I figured it out. But it's a CGI character. It almost looks animated. I don't think it looks good. Now, it was the only time they did it, so maybe they were doing it for the flashback scene, so it's not that big a deal. But when he comes on the screen, which takes about an hour and 20 minutes, it's because his voice and his eyes. And I think he's 80 years old. And some of the stuff he was doing, I read that he hurt his ribs and they had to stop shooting for a while. But he plays a 7-foot guy in the real world. He's fantastic. Prabhas, who plays, I want to get his name right. Bhairava. He's kind of the anti-hero of this piece. He's a bounty hunter, and he's got a souped up car with a little android. Bougie was her name. He was great, and he was a lot of fun. The fight scene, like when they introduce him, they all have such fantastic entrances. Bakchan and Brabas. Um, the story was it wasn't a clear cut story other than they want women to get pregnant so that this bad guy who's all withered away, like the Emperor in Star Wars, needs some kind of serum. They kept talking about a serum, but you don't really know what the serum is. But it comes from pregnant women or certain pregnant women, and also it's about a baby being born who will be God, and that's where Deepika comes in, and her character's name is M80, which, by the way, in the States is a firework, M80, but she ends up being called Sumathi. It's a long story. Her baby is the chosen one, is the god. So it's that whole the bad guys are trying to get her, the good guys are trying to protect her. So the story is not a straight like it's not even good versus evil because there's some betrayals in it. But I will say that overall the action was fantastic. The fight scenes were great. My one complaint about for so much money being spent, the lasers and stuff look kind of lame. I have to tell you. But Bakchan as this 7 foot guy, and I don't know how they did it. They must have done a lot of forced perspective. But it was pretty impressive when they showed him around people, and he was so much taller, and he's got that great voice. The other thing was, I think this was shot in Telugu, but as I'm watching it, because I know everybody's voice pretty well, and I think some people dubbed their own voices in Hindi. But some of the voices didn't match who was talking. So I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I find that a little bit distracting. Now I'm reading the subtitle, so it shouldn't be that big a deal. But I've watched so many of these movies that I know what people sound like, and when they don't sound like what I'm used to, I find it a little bit distracting. But as far as a science fiction epic, look, I get that, and you guys have told me this that India's made a lot of valiant efforts at it, but don't really knock it out of the park. This was pretty good. I mean, it had its it was almost 3 hours long, and there were definitely times in the movie where nothing was happening that I think they could have made it much tighter, which I think really would have helped. Because I read some of the reviews on it, and where people are talking about the scope of it and how epic it is, some are saying it was a little long. The story's not that great, and I have to agree. The story was okay, but I have to give credit because it's not really a story I've heard or seen before. And like I said, the visuals for the different areas that they went to were really impressive. I mean, really impressive. So yeah, I walked out of there with a smile on my face. I mean, I really did. I thought it was really good, and it's good to see Bakchan. And I also read that Kamal Hassan only did it his cameo to because of Amitabh Bachchan. Now, my biggest complaint is the ending. The ending sets up a sequel, which is fine if you know the sequel is going to be made. Now, maybe that was their goal. We're going to make a sequel no matter what, because if they don't make the sequel, then the ending is terrible, just terrible. No conclusion. So now they say it's coming, right? The sequel. I hope it does because, like I said, the way they left it, it was like the end of Empire Strikes Back, right? You knew they were going to make a third one, but if they left it like that and there was no third, and you would have been like, well, what the hell kind of movie was this? That's kind of how I felt about that ending. And also the lead character, Braven. No, I'm not saying that right. Sorry, I want to get this right. Bareva. His his story arc went a couple of different directions that didn't make a lot of sense to me. Like he's Amitabh Bachchan's brother, reincarnated, I guess, because he's not a giant like Bachchan is, but he's got powers, and it had a very a superhero vibe too, because Bachchan is doing all kinds of really cool stuff. You can shoot him, and he's immortal. So I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I really liked this movie. I really did, and I think it was a valiant effort of Indian cinema. And it's a beautiful film. It's unlike the vehicles, the buildings, very different than anything I've seen before. So I always appreciate that. So my advice is check it out on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. I will give this, I think, for the sheer scope of it and the aesthetic of the film. The story was okay. Again, I thought all the performances were great. I'm going to give it a 4. But this is definitely a film you want to see in the movie theater. Now, hopefully, you're going to see it with more than just me. Okay, I'm clapping, I'm laughing, I'm doing all kinds of stuff, and I'm looking around. And there's nobody there. Okay, my mother said I told my mother I went auntie, and then she called me a loser. Yeah, she called me a loser, but I don't care. Now, the other movie I want to go see is Kill, but it's only playing at 9:50 p.m. in one theater. So I don't know yet. Oh, one other thing, I've already watched 3 episodes of Mirzapur. And I have to tell you, I'm liking the 3rd season a whole lot better than the 2nd season. Although I miss Muna. Great character. I miss that character. So that's my 10-ish minute review of Kalki 2898. If you haven't seen it and you like sci-fi, check it out. I think you'll like this film. Okay. So check out, I got more coming over the next couple of days. So check it out. You get a chance, hit the subscription button, hit the like button, hit the notification button, so you're informed when these show up. It really does help me and the channel. So thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you soon with, yes, another 10-ish minute review.